Okay. Hi, everybody. We're here with two of the attorneys that practice in my courtroom, and I'd like to have them introduce themselves before we start talking. Hope, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Hope Sullivan. I'm a senior assistant prosecutor in our specialty domestic violence court. I've spent most of my career in the domestic violence court.
And hi, my name is Steve Nemec. I'm with the City of Tucson Public Defender's Office, and I've been in Tucson City Court or DV Court since the inception of the court.
Okay, and we'll just say for the record that we're having a few connection problems. We're going to keep going because we don't have a lot of other times where we can all get together. If it turns out bad, we'll stop and start over again. But so I'm going to start with our first question for you all, and mostly this is directed to Steve because he's been here with me since the beginning of a DV court, and so. How did the handling of domestic violence cases on adult probation change after we started meeting and talking about the issues? And what were some of the issues that concerned you and your colleagues, Steve, as public defenders before we started this collaboration?
Well, I think that people didn't know what to expect about the collaboration. Prior, though, there wasn't much success for our clients on adult probation. And I'm not sure if that had to do with the fact that there was a lack of communication between probation and defense attorneys and also the prosecutors. But we didn't really see, prior to DV court starting, I think the idea was that if they were going to get revoked on their probation, what we would see from adult probation at that time was that they would just suggest to max out our clients on their jail time and impose, ask to impose a kind of a lengthy sentence based on what they had suspended on them. And, that still kind of held true at the very beginning of DV court. I think we had some probation officers who weren't really sold on the idea of a coordinated community response. And they were really looking at getting the most significant sentence. So, I think that a lot changed. I think DV court got some really good probation officers in there who understood that this might need to be a little bit more collaborative. And if we're going to get some success, if we want our clients to succeed, we want, I think everybody on board needed to understand that there had to be a little bit more communication between everybody, between probation, between the prosecutors, us and the court. And so it was a slow process, a slow learning process, but I think that when you had some POs who kind of understood that they got more out of the probationers with the additional communication with probationers and with defense counsel, I think you start to see some progress. So that was our initial impression. Initially, it wasn't favorable, but once we got everybody working a little bit more toward a common goal of success, I think we started to see some progress.
I think one of the things that struck me the most was when the defense attorneys told me, Judge, as soon as you take a plea, our clients are out on the street because most of them are still living with the victims, and the victims want them to live together. But it was a standard term of probation to have no contact. So that was something we first negotiated, right, with everybody.
Yeah, we started seeing a little bit more on of contact being allowed as long as probation could talk to the listed victim, and they could come up with on their end a safety plan, but also just to make it clear, the probationer had certain expectations that he or she had, and they had to meet those expectations. And if those expectations were communicated to the person that they're living with, the listed victim, then things might work out a little bit better. You might see a little bit more progress and a little bit more, things might be a little bit more copacetic at the beginning of the probationary period.
Yes.
So Steve, along those lines, like how did our collaboration make things better for you as far as practicing in DV court?
Well, I think that when you see just at the start, the POs I wouldn't say there was animosity, but there was definitely not as good of a relationship. It was definitely, we had POs who were out to, from our perspective, to just get our clients, and our clients just wanted to try and succeed on probation, and they didn't have all the resources, and they didn't have, they had tough issues on their own that precluded them from really performing better on probation. So once we got some of the probation officers, I remember early on that there were certain probation officers we knew that we could work with and maybe get not just get a better outcome, but get a good conversation started between our client and the PO. And you would see that with some of the clients that we had on active probation revocations who started to kind of turn it around a little bit because the probation officer made a point of respecting them and kind of showing them, where the lines were, but at the same time, respecting the client to actually, understand what those lines are and try and abide by probation conditions. So it was a slow process, but there was a definite, there were definitely certain POs who understood kind of what we were trying to do. So.
Okay. That makes sense. Was it helpful to have the officers at the meetings, like having more access where we interacted overall? Because I know for me, when I was able to come in, we could talk about mutual clients and kind of I could share with you what I was looking for as an officer of the court. I'm just wondering how that was for you, those interactions.
And Hope, I don't know if you want to start out on that. I've got a few things to say, but I know that well, from our perspective, let me just say this. It helped a lot to have that personal, conversation with the POs when you finally realize that the probation officers have a job to do, and we have a job to do in defending our clients, till the very end. But we also want to make sure that our clients are doing what they can to succeed on probation, because it's a different story once they've already been sentenced. The whole job is to get them to succeed. So establishing those personal relations and the relationships with the POs was huge. And it's still an ongoing process because we have new POs now that we have to start from square one again. We have a new group of POs, and it really helps to have probation officers who've been through this, who know the drill, who understand what success means for a probationer and what the tools are that the probationer needs to achieve success. So having that communication was huge. Getting to know the POs was huge, so that we're putting a face to not just the PO, but the situation. And I think, when you get to know people, it's that respect that we all have now after 10 years or over 10 years. It's the idea that we need to talk to each other professionally at all times, but that we kind of respect each other's differences and opinions in court and in the meetings, especially.
Hope, how has it helped you, this collaboration as a prosecutor in dealing with advocates and victims?
Yeah, so I would say having this personal relationship.
Uh-oh, we've lost you now.
Uh-oh, am I gone?
Now you're better, but you were.
Okay. Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah. So I would say that personal relationship with the probation officers that we've established has been game changing in a lot of ways. One is a victim safety piece. A lot of times we will have a lot of input from listed victims in cases that we either get from the victims themselves or from the victim advocates that are stationed in our courtroom. And we are able to, from the outset of someone taking a probation plea, we're able to, from the outset, to give the probation officer that's assigned a heads up on the issues that we see in the case. So if we have particular concerns for like mental health or substance abuse, or whether or not we think someone needs to be on GPS monitoring, we can give a probation officer a heads up about those concerns that we have from the victim or from us, and they are able to kind of get their mindset in the correct place and in starting probation with someone. Additionally, I think that there's even a benefit to the probation officer from a safety perspective, because I know that there's been a few times where I've had particularly volatile defendants where I have some serious safety concerns, and I might have concerns that there are weapons in the home or things like that. And I'm able to give the probation officers a heads up. And I'll even say, I'm not sure who will be assigned to this case yet, but I trust that you will get this information to who it needs to go to. And so having those relationships with probation officers has made that possible. And I think it's improved victim safety. I think it's improved officer safety. Another thing that this collaboration has done is when someone is on probation, if we get information from victims or from law enforcement that there might be violations of probation going on, we're immediately able to let the probation officer know what concerns we have, and they can start doing follow-up pretty quickly. So, and I know that some of the attendees for this will not only be working on domestic violence cases, but I'll even say that I've used our DV probation officers to get me information on other cases that might be going on. So if someone has a felony case out there, they're able to give me updates on someone's felony probation, or an update on someone's progress in their aggravated DUI case. And so just being able to share information has been a huge benefit to, I think, how we address these cases.
And we were talking about this before we started today, but not everyone's going to be in a specialized court, or like Hope said, or in a DV court. But do you envision, or can you imagine having this kind of coordinated community response in the other courtrooms you work in? Or how do you think that, I mean, I don't want to say you can only do this in a dedicated DV court, right? Do you all think that this would benefit you in other courtrooms and other cases? We can start with Hope.
Well, I would just say, and I know that Steve might be able to speak to this as well, but we've used adult probation officers in our mental health courts and other specialty courts. And I think if you have, as Steve has said, if you have a probation officer who has a history with the other participants and stakeholders in the court, you can have really productive conversations about what's going on in a defendant's life. And so I think something like a mental health court, or Christina had mentioned that some of her probation officers, they've been in drug courts. It's absolutely beneficial in those areas.
Steve, do you have anything to add to
Yeah, I do. I've been in other courtrooms that do DUIs and other domestic violence cases that don't make it to the dedicated domestic violence court. And you need the right personnel. And I guess the key here is that I would say that there's some good prosecutors on the other side, but they may not fully understand the whole collaborative process, because they're really focused on, getting their convictions on certain cases, and they don't necessarily see the back end of it, post disposition, where we can actually do so much more collaboration to try and get success on the table for an entire family, not just the defendant or the listed victim, but the kids involved as well. I think there is a little bit of trickle down that comes from DV court, and I think people hear about some of the things that we do in DV court, but I don't. Like I said, I think the key piece is having the right personnel that are willing to work together on levels maybe they weren't working at before. It is a little bit more adversarial in other courtrooms. I'm not saying it's not professional. I'm just saying we're trying to negotiate in different ways. And I think, like I said, for a collaborative court, for something that is a community coordinated community response, you need people who are willing to put in the work and show the same respect to the different sides.
Yeah, Christine, I don't know if you can speak to that just briefly, because we're almost out of the time we've given ourselves, but just what your experiences in other, courts and courtrooms.
I have the utmost respect for the DB court. I and everybody in their roles, Steve and Hope, and I think that because of that respect, and Steve touched on it in the beginning, is that understanding that we each have our roles that we need to fulfill with our jobs, that but then understanding how can we as a team, as a group of individuals still performing our specific role, have that change that we want. Because at the end of the day, I do believe that all of us are after the same thing, which is to have a safer community. And we just go about that differently with the things that we're passionate about. And because we respect each other, I am far more likely to have, a defense counsel in domestic violence court come and talk to me, who I've gotten to know, and have them express their frustration at maybe things that I'm looking at as a PO. But because I think we both listen to each other and our frustrations, we come to an understanding of why we're asking the things that we're asking. And at the end of the day, we're able to either put that aside and move forward, or come to mutual ground to be able to ultimately help this individual become law abiding, or help the family, the victims, and everyone. So that's been my experience.
I will just say, and then we'll end out, is that I am just so grateful for the people that I've had in my courtroom over the years, because people have been able, and even though it is always going to be an adversarial process because it's a criminal court, and but still, the fact that people can respect each other, and I've been in other courtrooms where people won't even talk to each other. And to me, that makes a huge difference here, is the respect that everybody has for each other and the time they take to listen to each other. So thank you very much, you two, for participating in this. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
for having
Judge.
us.